So I hand over the microphone to the Deputy Director, Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse, Mrs. Justina Chukuma. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Craig. You've done a great job. And standing on existing protocol and without further delays, we're going into the main activity of today, which is welcoming our panelists. We have 4 panel sessions. We're going to introduce the first panel now. And I'll start by inviting the chairman of the first panel in the person of Honorable Justice J.E. Oyefeso. Please, can we clap for her? She's a judge of the Lagos State Judiciary. You're welcome, ma. Is Honorable Justice R.A. Oshodi. She's also a serving judge of the Lagos State Judiciary. Can we please welcome her? And then we have the moderator in the person of Mrs. Morenike Obifarinde. Please, can we welcome her? And our panelist, Mr. Fayo Adeleye. He's a partner Aina Blackson LP and a member of the LMDC Governing Council. Please, can we welcome him? And last but not the least, and joining us virtually, is Dr. Tolulope Aderemi, partner, Pastone and Grace LP. Please, can we welcome her virtually? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to our special guests, Honorable Justice K.M.O. Kekereekun, the Chief Justice of Nigeria. And I would like to stand on the existing protocols as ably set out by the Chairman of the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse, Honorable Justice Jumoke Pedro. So we're going to dive straight into the business of today. It is indeed an honor and a great privilege for me to be here this morning to chair this first session of this first annual Multi-Door Courthouses and ADR Stakeholders Summit, themed ADR as a panacea for speedy resolution of commercial disputes and enhanced access to justice. One of the tools to achieve this is, of course, technology. And so in this first session, we're going to be focusing on the role of technology in transforming ADR, the impact of online dispute resolution, and artificial intelligence. COVID-19, with the resultant lockdown, forced everyone, and Nigeria in particular here, to begin to think outside the box and to embrace the paradigm shift that was inevitably thrust on us. Although we had known that technology was the way forward, the lockdown forced us to embrace technology even quicker than we probably would have done. So no longer could we now play the ostrich and bury our heads in the sand. The way forward was to embrace technological innovations to ensure that we did not come to a standstill and that we were up to date with innovations in this digital age. So here we are today. Online dispute resolution was embraced. Artificial intelligence, which helps to analyze information, was also embraced. Today, we have a very engaging paper that is titled Innovations in ADR Technology and New Practices, to be delivered by none other than my learned brother, Honorable Justice Raman Oshodi. And so without further ado, I will hand over to my Lord to give us his paper. Thank you. Let's put our hands together for him.
My lords and distinguished guests, permit me to leverage on the already established protocol. I have my paper. I don't know whether they can project it on the... I have divided this paper, Innovations in ADR, into 4 parts. I'll quickly speak about the importance of ADR in Lagos State. That's the first part of the presentation. The second is technological evolution, because evolution, everything has a history. So I've gone to the historical perspective of the ADR, using tech in ADR. Thirdly, I'll discuss global perspectives on ODR, online dispute resolution. Then the last part is the future of ADR, artificial intelligence, and teleportation. This takes care of my introduction. I'll quickly move to the substance of the paper. The first part of the paper is the importance of ADR in Lagos State. And as has been said this morning, the LMDC has been a vital component of our court system since its inception in 2002, offering an effective alternative to conventional litigation methods. I took the data of the cases in court from the from the JIS and COMIS. Between January and now, we have received approximately 29,000 cases filed in Lagos court. I also took the data from the LMDC, and they resolved 70% of the cases filed in LMDC are referrals from the court. Therefore, it suggests and is evidence that LMDC is an integral part of the Lagos State judiciary. And the benefit of this is that if LMDC or the ADR can use the tech, which I'm going to speak about later in this paper, then they'll be able to resolve more disputes quickly and match up with the number of cases filed. Indeed, cases filed will continue to increase. As businesses expand, then there will be disputes, and there's likelihood of more disputes being referred to court or the LMDT. Because I have 10 minutes, I'll go to the second part of my presentation, the technological evolution of ADR. Now, I took this presentation from this part from the very first in the 80s, where we used to have teleconferencing, and that was how we started. Somebody is in New York, another person is in England, they can have that conversation or have their dispute resolved through teleconferencing, telephone conference. When email evolved, maybe in the 90s and thereabout, then there was a shift to email correspondence and communication, which can also be used to resolve disputes. I recall my experience, my first-hand experience with email arbitration. It was an arbitration that we conducted in 2016. At the first preliminary meeting, we agreed to have a document-only arbitration. Every aspect of the arbitration was conducted via email. I remember today the lawyers will file an email and also send hard copies. But in that particular arbitration, we decided to use email from beginning to end. And so we exchanged email, procedural orders were issued by email, and we filed all of these processes, and within 6 months, the arbitration was resolved. The award was transmitted by email. There was no single face-to-face interaction, and that was in 2016. But of course, when we got to court to enforce the award, it took well over 6 months, and I believe it's still ongoing. So that's the first part, the email correspondence. Then having developed and evolved through the email, there were issues of multiple or voluminous documents. And so if you want to transmit an email that is 500 pages long, you send it at 10 o'clock in the morning, the recipient doesn't receive until later in the evening. And as a result, other tech apps developed or evolved to deal with this. Then also where you have multiple participants. And that resulted in different platforms. The first platform is Caseline, which is used in UK and Canada, where you can have a room where they dump all of the documents, and you can deal with your dispute in that way. Now, because of time, I'll form. The third is virtual data rooms, which also evolve where you can all submit your document for the purpose of the dispute resolution. Document can be uploaded, it can be shared, it can be analyzed in real time, fostering a level of collaboration that was once unimaginable. After that, due to COVID-19, we resorted to the use of virtual hearing rooms. And the prominent ones, I'm on paragraph 12 now. The prominent ones I have put in this diagram. You have the Google Meet, you have the Zoom, and you have the Microsoft Teams. These are the three prominent virtual platforms we use for hearing proceedings. And I paper that these virtual platforms, can you move to the picture after paragraph 12 of the paper? Yeah, these are the three prominent ones we use now. But they are not just in common use, they are also well sophisticated, where you have breakout sessions, which is peculiar for mediation. You also have, one interesting aspect of this, you have real-time transcription, which is also important for arbitration. You also have AI-assisted note-taking. And so, while we started the virtual meetings and dispute resolution meetings, it also evolved. It didn't stop there. And it also evolved to Microsoft Teams decided to also advance it a bit further. And Microsoft Teams came up with Microsoft Teams AI Assistant. And I'm sure some of our mediators must have, or arbitrators must have used that. And I've given an example of it in paragraph 14 of my paper. Can you go to that picture? Now, what this does is Microsoft Teams AI Assist, paragraph 14. The picture after paragraph 14. So I went online to get this and to register on this app myself just for the purpose of demonstration. During the Teams meeting, you can start live transcription to capture everything being said. The transcription appears in real time and includes each speaker's name and timestamp. Therefore, those days you have an arbitration and you wait for the transcript, they are over because you have this lifetime transcription and you get your transcript immediately after the proceedings. But there was a challenge with that because of our peculiar, because the technology adopted there is voice to text. And so there was a challenge because of our peculiar intonation in Nigeria. The Chinese have their intonation, Asians have their intonation, and as a result, when you use this voice to text, the transcription may not be as accurate when you speak in the grammar that we speak. And as a result, the tech went back to develop more applications that could be used. I came across a recent one, which is called SimForest Limited Scriber. That picture goes to the next paragraph, paragraph 16. Now, what this does is, as soon as the meeting is about to start, you can go on your scribe bar, indicate which one you want. If it's a court proceedings, you can indicate. If it's arbitration, you can indicate. If it's an office meeting, you can indicate. They also have an app for law enforcement. What it does is that as soon as you speak, if the app will record it, then at the end of the proceedings, you upload and it transcribes in real time. And the intonation is peculiar to our own intonation. And so when you call names like Oshodi or Lagbaja, it captured it accurately well. And at the end of the proceedings, you are assured of having your transcript ready. Now, what it also does is that outside getting your transcript ready, you can also go on this application without the internet. So you go on it with your devices, your tabs, even your phones. And I went online to register for this app. And once you do that, whenever you have access to the internet, you upload and it transcribes and it brings that in real time. This takes care of the language barrier or our peculiar intonation. And this is also a very effective mode of dispute, effective use of app in dispute resolution. Then the last part I've touched is online dispute resolution. Online dispute resolution is all I've talked about, using of email, use of virtual proceedings, and all of that. But there's also an aspect of online dispute resolution which has to do with remote mediation and remote arbitration. Now, what this does in remote mediation and remote arbitration is that you can have your dispute resolved even without any physical interface. I have given a global perspective of this online dispute resolution, which is ODR. I've quoted my friend Fola Alade in his presentation that over 100 ODR operating platforms exist. Then I also went to the historical perspective. The European Union have their own ODR framework, and the United Nations technical notes on ODR also exist. Then the popular one, which is very common, is the eBay Resolution Center. Now, the idea of the EU ODR framework is to ensure that people that have their sale online, they can easily resolve their dispute without having any physical interface. Now, someone buys a product in China and is in Nigeria. You buy your product from China, you're in Nigeria, you don't like the product anymore, you can actually resolve your dispute either through mediation or even through negotiation. And I'll discuss it later in this presentation. Now, the EU ODR framework is an online consumer claims platform, and they developed guidelines since 2013 on how to approach this. The next is the United Nations Commission on International Trade. And what they published in their technical notes in 2017 is 3 key factors for ODR. The first is technology-enabled negotiation. The second is facilitated settlement, while the third is the final stage, which could involve various forms of third-party determinations. I'll give an example of the application of these technical notes in the eBay Resolution Center. These technical notes provide valuable guidance for developing ODR systems worldwide, including in Nigeria. And this is how the eBay Resolution Center works. You go to paragraph 25. The eBay Resolution Center stands as a testament to power of ODR in handling high-volume, low-value disputes. And in that diagram, I have explained how it works. But it's important I note that this system resolves over 60 million disputes annually. And so 60 million disputes without an interface. I got the statistics from the LMDC, I think 25 or 30,000. But here we have multiple disputes being resolved without any physical interface. And this is how it works. And the important thing in these systems is that they are user-friendly. And so anybody can go on the app and click on it. For instance, this one, it says if you're having an issue with an eBay seller, try contacting them directly to resolve your problem. If you can't work things out, we are always here to step in and help. And so you can click into the blue box and ask your questions and gradually resolve your dispute. I've said in paragraph 26 that the eBay model uses the United Nations approach, starting with guided communication between the parties. They later escalate it to the eBay platform. It gives high satisfaction rate. And I said that these global examples offer valuable insights that could be adapted to enhance ODR implementation in Nigeria. Now, it's important that I note that Nigeria is a peculiar environment, and that's the reason why a lot of the commercial banks had to change the operation of their ATM machines. You go to an ATM machine and it tells you whether you want to speak Yoruba, Igbo, or Hausa. So our peculiar situation requires developing tech locally, like the scriber came up, because if you can't, and most of the ATM machines, the moment you go to the ATM, it speaks to you, then you also add the text to ensure that it is user-friendly, and a lot of Nigerians who are not lettered can apply and use their ATM cards. Now, the future of ADR, AI, and teleportation. As we look to the future, AI, whether we like it or not, artificial intelligence is important and relevant in the scheme of things. I've said that AI-powered tools are already revolutionizing document, analyzing and e-discovery, processing vast amounts of information with speed and accuracy that surpasses human capabilities. Some have argued, and I put it there, I envisage AI assisting LMDC mediators in reviewing case files, identifying key issues, and suggesting potential compromises based on analysis of thousands of previous cases. I recall at the MBA conference this year, the Honorable Chief Justice of Borno State gave an example of how they have used it. You create the app, you feed it with a lot of data. As a result, you ask questions and it gives you the result based on the data you have provided. And so some of the ones we use now, which are foreign-based, it may be better. So you may not get accurate results. But if we begin to develop our own data, then we get accurate results that suit our own peculiar nature. I've gone to paragraph 28. The concept of teleportation, Fola Alade and I discussed it, also is another peculiar way we can do it. We are doing video calls. Initially, we used to do teleconferences. And now, to do teleconferences is even difficult because you rather see the person face to face. You can do that on your phone, on your WhatsApp. And so, for you to teleport is another technology that is emerging. And so the mediator will sit in Lagos. One of the disputants is in Kano. Another one is in Calabar. And you can all have the feeling that you are physically together to have your mediation done. That is possible, and that's the future. And I've said, but there's a warning. AI in ADR raises crucial questions about fairness, transparency, and data privacy. We must ensure AI systems are free from bias, have transparent decision-making processes, and fully comply with regulations such as the Nigeria Data Protection Act 2023. Now, these applications are only to enhance and not to replace humans, even though some people have seen in the future that they would perform a lot more rules. But regardless, there must be consistent compliance with the Nigeria Data Protection Act. I come to my conclusion due to time. I'll skip the first paragraph, I'll skip the second paragraph, I'll go straight to the last one. Looking at the future, AI and virtual reality present exciting possibilities for ADR. AI could assist in case analysis and suggesting resolutions, while virtual reality could create immense mediation environment. However, as we embrace these innovations, we must remain committed to the ethical principles of our justice system. The objective is to use technology to enhance, not replace, human element in dispute resolutions, ensuring that our ADR processes remain fair, transparent, and compliant with regulations such as the Nigeria Data Protection Act. By balancing technological advancement with our core legal values, the LNDC can create an ADR system that is not only efficient, but also genuinely equitable and accessible to all Lagosians. I thank you for your kind attention.
Can we put our hands together for a very well delivered paper? We expect nothing less. Well, His Lordship has taken us through the whole gamut of innovations in ADR technology and new practices, where we are coming from and where we are today and what the future holds. He has told us why ADR is important in Lagos State, the technological evolution of ADR, global perspectives of ODR, and the future of ADR, AI, and teleportation. He has highlighted the drawbacks of AI, which include data privacy issues. He also makes the salient point that technology should enhance and not replace the human element in dispute resolution. I think that is key. And then the exciting part for me is teleportation. What endless possibilities we have in the ADR space. I must also chip in, like he said, that going forward, We need to begin to brainstorm and also fashion out homegrown technology that will suit our own peculiar circumstances. Once again, I want to say a big thank you, my Lord, for a truly engaging and well-researched paper. Shall we put our hands together for him? At this point, I will hand over to our moderator to anchor the panel discussions as we dig deeper into the subject of ADR and technology. Mrs. Obifarinde, over to you.
Thank you very much, my Lord Justice Oyefeso. And I want to stand, good afternoon, everyone, and I want to stand on existing protocols. I want to commend my Lord, the Honorable Justice Ari Oshodi, for a very good paper. It has gone into a lot to bring us to speed. And right now, what we will be doing for this session is to add on to what my Lord Justice Oshodi has said. And I will start the conversation. I have a few comments to make on his paper. I would say comments because they are by way of additions, as it were. I have been in the forefront of using technology to improve access to justice even before COVID. And somehow, the only good side to COVID was really embracing technology for dispute resolution for most of us. Because prior to that, people like Mrs. Adebomire did not even want to hear about ODR. It seemed like I was somewhere in space talking about ODR, but now, and I tried to explain, even simple email at that time was ODR. It was just using technology to improve dispute resolution, as it were. I would want to say, first of all, that ODR has value in two ways. And the first is, yes, it helps us to resolve disputes. A part of an institution's trust building. Justice Oshodi talked about eBay. eBay was the very first pilot that brought about the word ODR. There was that pilot with eBay with Colin Rule and Ethan Cash at that time. And we call Ethan Cash the grandfather of ODR because they were the guys who even coined the word ODR because of the success that they had with that eBay. And the only reason eBay is successful, we've heard about 60 million disputes. It's because of the trust in that community. And so as LMDC, if we must embrace technology, we must as practitioners and stakeholders be intentional about creating trust in the environment. Because if we're not likely to achieve what we want to. And I just wanted to say one or two things as to what my Lord Justice Oshodi also said about forms and the abilities of whether they are augmented or automated systems, particularly for the mediators who are in the room. There's next level mediation. It uses decision science and it helps the mediator to work with the parties. It brings up questions for you. It guides you in a way that it can enhance your mediation experience. There is also Peacemaker. Peacemaker is a risk assessment AI-powered tool. It also, what it does is that it helps the mediator work with the parties to assess the risk in their dispute. And what does that do? It helps them to make, I would say, quality decisions about our negotiating in the course of the mediation. And all of this plan to do is that they enhance, just like Justice Oshodi has said, they enhance the experience and the efficiency and the efficacy of our dispute resolution processes. The other point I would like to emphasize is also my Lord Justice Oshodi about it briefly, ethics. Ethics, even in ODR. The International Council for Online Dispute Resolution, for which I am currently the president, is a body of professionals from 6 of the continents of the world. We have about We have about members from over 50 countries, all fellows of the National Center for Technology and Dispute Resolution. And we have come up with the standards. And this set of standards are universal. So whether they are homegrown technologies or they are technologies that exist, what they simply say is that ODR platform must be neutral, it must be impartial, just to speak to what Justice Oshodi has also said. So there are about 8 standards that we have. And this provides a guide practitioners, but also for web developers. So what the standards are they're a guideline to help us, whether as practitioners or web developers, to look at the platforms that we need to engage with and see, even when we use AI, we need to check. Yes, and I've said it over and over again, AI is as good as the human that creates it. So it can never take over our roles as neutrals. What ODR will do is to improve our efficiency and efficacy as practitioners. And so the center has done so much to ensure that data quality, bias, transparency, and security are checked, whether it is augmented or automated artificial intelligence. Thank you very much, and I'm going to have my colleague to also speak to the paper before we then go on to the other issues that we need to deal with.
My Lord, the Chair of this session, Honorable Justice Oyefeso, permit me, my Lord, to stand on the already established protocol, ably established by the Chair of the Governing Council. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me join the 2 speakers ahead of me in commending my Lord, Honorable Justice Oshodi, for a well-delivered paper, not just in terms of content and industry, but the eloquence with which the paper was delivered. I say it, well done, my Lord. So my Lord has chronicled the technological evolution of ADR over the years, starting from the era of teleconferencing and email through to what we have today. Today we talk about ODR, we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about blockchain technology and all the likes. So the evolution has been on for a bit. So I listened to my Lord, and the takeout message for me is summed up in the very first line of paragraph 1. First line of paragraph 1. My Lord said, ADR stands at a critical junction where tradition meets innovation. ADR stands at a critical junction where tradition meets innovation. And let us put a bit of context to this. Mediation, for example, as one of the ADR channels. How does the typical mediation session holds, right? Disputants would approach the multi-door courthouse, and I'm happy we have quite a number of us here, multi-door courthouses. And a case manager is assigned, a mediator is appointed, papers are filed by the disputants, the claim and the defense, as you have it. And then the case manager sifts through scheduled mediation sessions, which hold physically, all of that. At the end of the day, we achieve resolution. And we applaud the process, traditionally. We applaud the process. We say it is flexible because the parties determine the time, they determine the venue. We say it is confidential. Indeed, mediation is confidential. We applaud the process. But what is technology saying to us today? That we can achieve greater efficiency, greater accessibility, and fairness to parties if we decide to embrace the innovation that technology presents to us. So the disputant in this case now, we've analyzed the traditional. The disputant in this case, as ably stated in my last presentation, does not even have to leave the comfort of his home or the comfort of his office. He can download all his claims automated. From point of filing to point of outcome is automated. You don't need a physical case manager. The systems is there to analyze, review, document, complex documents in high volumes. That is what technology has done. You don't need to leave the comfort of your home to go to a meeting room, a mediation room. It can be done virtually. And what does that tell us? Across the globe, we could have someone in China, someone in Nigeria, in different parts of the world, participating in mediation session at the same time. That is what technology has done. So the future, and my Lord did say, the future of ADR is no longer future. The future of ADR has happened on us yesterday. The future of ADR, embracing the innovation that technology has happened to us yesterday. And this is the message that I want the multi-door courthouses here present to take home. And that message is summed up in the first line, like I said. ADR is at that critical juncture where tradition has met with innovation. Now, the multi-door courthouse, I would say, borrowing from the line of my Lord Justice Oshodi, the multi-door courthouse is at that critical juncture. If we want to stay relevant, the multi-door courthouse is at that critical junction where the traditional means of practicing ADR as we know it today needs to transition to a technological-driven ADR practice. The multi-door courthouse, and that is, and I'm happy we have quite a number of us here. The multi-door courthouse, and that is the next phase. We need to be able to embrace the innovation that the technology has presented us with in order to transition from what we know as our traditional practice of ADR to the next level. That is my take out, and that's what I commend to every representative of the multi-door courthouse in this room. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fayos. So we'll go over to Mr. Tolu Aderemi, who is joining us online for his intervention.
Excellent. All right. And I won't waste so much time. I was saying this is the that maybe this speech will start here, but you and my other brother have upwards of 5 minutes each. But I'll make this very brief. Just to show this paper has set the tone for what I call a revolution for the use of technology in ADR space. And so that paper, as far as I'm concerned, is a position paper that we must, after this meeting, perhaps set up a team in reviewing the entire infrastructure of technology at ADR. So, my Lord Justice Oshodi, thank you very much. I will not re-echo all the salient and great points made in your paper. All the earlier speakers have reiterated, my Lord Justice Oyefaso, Mrs. Obifari, and my brother there. But I'll just go straight to 3 points, which struck me as the Lord was speaking. And the first point, I think, was called from your paragraph 5, where it was noted that from January to September, and I think this is how we will continue to interrogate this infrastructure, because we will just need to get it better. So in January, between January to September, from the Lord's paper, there were 28,950 cases at the High Court. 7,860 of those were filed at the High Court, whilst 28,090 cases were filed at the Magistrate Court. Now, that is where I worry a bit, that how are we using technology? It's very obvious that the use of technology and this alternative dispute resolution, or EADR, perhaps is working very well, for the High Court. But my fear is I'm not sure how much of it is working with the Magistrate Court. And so if we don't want the Magistrate Court to end up with the same challenges, then I think this is about the time when we start looking at it. So that's the first point regarding the paper. And I'm speaking as the panel were to interrogate the notes paper. So that's the first point. The second point is that with technology, all of us have spoken brilliantly about technology. And what it should do, to my mind, with anything we take away from this meeting, is that technology should help us change the cliche from access to justice now to access from justice. Now, this is not my quote. This was the quote of Nigeria's former vice president, who is also one of our very eminent seniors here, His Excellency Professor Yemi Osinbajo. The users of our system have repeatedly been worried about that phrase or short sentence, access to justice. What they are concerned about is when will they leave the justice infrastructure? When will they come out of it? When will they get justice? And so the question for me is that will technology aid our movement of the cliche now to access from justice? And there's anything to go by. Look at the eBay, which my sister, Ms. Bifari, has eloquently talked about. I think it came out in my notes paper. 60 million cases in a year. My Lord, I think we need to go and interrogate that eBay. And it's been on for some time. Let us see what we can draw from it and see how we can apply it, perhaps to a small paid sport, and see what we can do with it. Two things I didn't hear what I'm not talking about is whether using technology has it reduced the cost of resolving disputes. And I say this as a commercial lawyer who also practices in this space a lot, particularly in a specialized area. Most of the concerns we have is about cost and how long it takes, cost and time. But I'm dealing with cost. So with the use of technology, is it reducing the cost of resolving disputes, whether by mediation or whether by arbitration? As this stakeholders meeting, I think is something we need to honestly ask ourselves. And finally, everybody in this room, how have we really adapted to the use of technology? Whether as lawyers, whether as judges, whether as ADR practitioners. And I speak about this with all honesty and transparency, and with someone who practices this regularly. When it comes to the use of technology, there's quite a lot of heavy resistance, particularly from practitioners. And I think this is an area where we also need to look at very closely. Other than that, the Law Justice, that was an excellent paper. It's a position paper that I believe the LMDC will take forward. We must come together, and review, the infrastructure of ADR using technology, particularly in line with both legislations, both the one in EU and of course the one in Nigeria that you have quoted. I'll thank you, my Lord, and participants.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tolu Aderemi. And we had some subtopics that we were to speak to, and I was to talk about the advantages of ODR platforms. And Mr. Aderemi had adverted to one of it. He talks about cost. Definitely, my Lord, the Honorable Justice Oshodi had talked about him having an arbitration that was a documents only, and that tells you straight away there's a savings on travel costs. There's a savings on having to find a space to sit. So that's one of the advantages. There's also accessibility. There's convenience and flexibility. I remember that I had an arbitration that my learned senior, Mrs. Osviva, was chair, and we did a visit to a locus in Port Harcourt while we're here in our individual offices during the pandemic. So, of course, there's that flexibility, there's speed. I think we were in on that arbitration for not more than 6 months or something, and we were able to do that. Of course, the global reach, and my Lord Justice Oshodi talks about the issue of the EU directive. It was specifically to enhance commercial, cross-border commercial activities in the EU. That's why that EU directive was passed. Of course, we know that the digital tools integration, and of course, the pandemic proof. If we have any other crisis like COVID and we cannot move, we know what we can do. definitely one of the challenges. We saw that in action right here. Some people still want to feel the next person, so that personal interaction, like in anything, there are risks. So you could have a confidential breach. We have time zone differences. Sometimes we have meetings of ICODA. Someone is in Australia. So for some person, it's 1 a.m. For me, it's 10 p.m. For those in the US, it's 3 p.m. So those are real challenges. Of course, Tolu had talked about adaptation resistance. There's some people who just don't want to move. And of course, Justice Oshodi talked about legal and regulatory issues. So I'm going to pass the mic to my brother Fola, and I'm just going to ask him to speak to if he could design an ideal platform using technology. What features would you, based on what we have talked about, the advantages, my Lord Justice Oshodi had talked about technology and advancement. What are those features that you think you would want to be paramount and prioritized? And why would you do that? You have 2 minutes. I don't know how you're going to do that. And I also want you to tell us briefly how we can probably leverage technology to enhance the emotional and psychological aspects of dispute resolution. I said it earlier on that some people would rather have that personal touch. How do you think we could then at least leverage technology? We've all talked about the beauty and the advantages of technology. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
2 minutes, please.
All right, I'll try to keep within 2 minutes, my lord. The first question is if we are to design an ADR platform, features that I'll prioritize. Okay, so prioritize in the sense that what we seek to achieve is greater efficiency, accessibility, and fairness to the parties. So the very first thing to consider is user-friendliness. Okay, you want to design a platform that is user-friendly, that can serve those who are tech-savvy and those who are not as knowledgeable. So that is not my priority. There's no point having a technology that becomes a barrier to resolving disputes. That's the very first one, it must be user-friendly. Then the second one will be video conferencing capabilities. People like to present their case and feel heard, and that you find in interpersonal conversation. I'm speaking to you, presenting my case, you're here physically with me. There's a feeling that, oh, you're hearing me. So video conferencing makes that possible. And of course, the video conferencing must have multilingual support because we have people from different linguistic background. So that's another critical one. The third one for me is automation. Okay, so you're able to download your documents, review, and all of that. So the platform must have that feature for automation. We all know that the next one for me is, confidentiality is very pivotal to mediation, for example. So the platform must have a feature that guarantees confidentiality. So like end-to-end encryption of communication, so there's no interference. And when you download documents, there must be features to be able to save them in the clouds in a secured, tamper-proof format, because that is what guarantees confidentiality. And finally, for me, ensuring that there is transparency and trust in the recording process. So we're having a mediation session now, and that is where blockchain technology comes in to ensure that the recordings are immutable, and when agreement is reached, no one is able to tamper. Those will be priority. Then AI assisted. Those will be my priorities for me, in my opinion.
Thank you very much, Fire. So Tolu, over to you. Tolu, can you hear us?
Loud and clear. I can hear you.
Great.
Sorry.
So what ethical considerations do you believe should guide the development of AI tools in the mediation process? And do you think AI can be designed to complement emotional intelligence and nuanced understanding that the human mediator can usually would bring to the table? 2 minutes, Tolu. 2 minutes, please.
We've just been granted extension of time. Tolu, we've just been granted extension of time, 5 minutes. So please take 2 minutes so that we can deal with the other things we have to do. 2 minutes, please.
Most grateful. I think the basic ones I'm addressing, not just speak about Mrs. Inspiring's thoughts, which are bias, transparency, etc. I think there are just 3 key ones in terms of ethical considerations that I think I may want to add to it. One is we'll start considering enhanced data protection measures. And what this simply means is that we must start looking at implementing strong encryption and anonymization techniques. ADR, arbitration, notation, they are clothed in a lot of confidentiality. And so the technology that we're going to be using to assisting in resolving those disputes must also be reflective of the same. And of course, under that, the 2 laws, we must start looking at developing a policy for their use, and I mean the GDPR as well as the Nigerian equivalent. The next one is recognition of human factor. And if you don't take anything out of here, please, this is quite important. You see, there are some dispute resolutions that are inherently human. And no matter what we do, they cannot be replaced by technology. And case in point, when you have a child custody issue, which you will need to consider things like the needs of the child, the mental and financial capacity of the parent, etc. Clearly, technology cannot be able to deal with this. And that deals with your second point, which is very good, when you talk about emotional intelligence. Now, how we're going to do that, to deal with that ethically, is that we must avoid algorithm bias, flawed programming, error in algorithm development. These are components that in aggregating the data that is going to use for the analysis of this set of facts, we must avoid this set of facts. The last one is what I call the black box liability. When Elon Musk started, one of the key concerns we had was if you have a car, a driverless car, that car, if it hits and kills someone, where does liability lie? It's almost the same thing that we're dealing with AI. So you have today AI, shops of fishes around the world, bringing different sort of issues, and then we make predictive analysis. The question is where those predictive analyses are wrong. And a lot should be alluded to that fact that we need to now start having homegrown ones where there is liability and the consequence of it is that we have no accountability framework as it is today. And of course, consequently, we cannot apportion accountability. And this takes me back to the earlier point that we need to develop a framework that encodes.
Thank you very much, Tolu.
In line with the law.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to turn the microphone back to my Lord, the Honorable Justice Oyefeso. I don't know if we have questions that were submitted earlier, rather online, or to just moderate this session. Thank you, Justice Oyefeso.
Any questions? From the online community, any questions? None. Thank you very much. I think we need to bring this session to a close. Time is not our friend this morning. This session has shown that technology obviously is the way forward. But as we embrace technology, let's begin to take into account our own homegrown environment. The bottom line is let us all embrace technology to improve our justice delivery and improve our ratings on the ease of doing business. Thank you so much, everyone, for your rapt attention. Thank you to our speaker, Honorable Justice Raman Oshodi. Thank you to our panelists, Mrs. Obifarinde, our moderator, Mr. Fayo, and Mr. Tolu. Thank you so much, and God bless us all. Thank you.